Okay, so real quick, I'm going to show you guys how to install the braided brake lines in the rear. It's the same from one side to the other. It's obviously just mirrored. So first thing you're going to want to do is break this bolt loose right here. This is a 12 millimeter. We're going to break loose this. This is a 14 millimeter. This is the factory banjo bolt. Set it aside. We're going to pull off the hose. I'm going to throw it in there so that way we don't leak any fluid anywhere. Then we're going to get this clip out. I just like to take a flathead, kind of get it to a point where I can grab onto it. And then we're going to take a set of needle nose pliers and we're just going to grab it and pull it out like so. And then we can take a 10 millimeter, just kind of work it back and forth. These guys are a little crusty on this. There we go. There you go. And then you just pull straight down and that factory line will come out. I'm going to hose off the area with some brake clean. Then my lovely assistant's going to hand me my brand new StopTech braided line. And the install is the reversal of the removal. We're going to shove this up in here like so. Get the thread started on this new line. And then you're going to take your factory clip and you're going to get it put back in. And then I'm going to just take my screwdriver and help press this in a little bit further. There we go. We're going to come back over here. We're going to get our 12. We're going to route this in. Get that threaded in like so. And then you're done. We're going to attach this line with the brand new hardware that is provided by StopTech. And then we're going to go through and we're going to have to bleed the entire car. But that's how you do the rear. All right, guys, now that we've got everything else taken care of, it's time to move on to getting the big 4-pot Brembos replaced. In lieu of these factory Type S calipers, with more horsepower, you also need better ability to brake. First off, we're going to be pulling off this old caliper. I'm also at the same exact time going to be swapping out this old rubber line for the StopTech line that you've already seen us put on the rear. And so we're going to get started. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a 17 millimeter for the bracket bolts. Those are going to be pretty tough, so you might want to hit those with some penetrating fluid before you get started. You're going to need a 12 millimeter to get the slide pin bolts, and you're going to need a 14 millimeter to get to the factory brake line banjo bolt. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to knock loose the 12 millimeter bolt that holds on the factory brake line. It's right over here attached to our BC Racing coilovers. Thank you, BC, for including this bracket. That was very kind of you. I'm going to put this bolt back so I don't lose it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and bust the banjo bolt loose so that way we can get it taken off of the caliper. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could loosen up these slide pins. I'm actually going to try and attempt to undo the bracket bolts and pull the whole thing off as one unit because I'm going to keep this thing together. So I'm going to grab a short 1/2 inch extension and I'm going to attempt to get this loose and just pull everything off as one unit.
He just goes with RPF 1 question mark and I just left it be.
So we got the entire caliper off and bracket in one shot. I'm just going to put these bolts back in so that way I don't lose them, just in case I ever need to put this back on this car or another one. Now we're going to pull the rotor off. I've replaced the front brakes on this before in the past. I didn't put the screws back in, so this rotor should just pop off. We are going to be taking off this dust shield because it does not fit with the Brembos. So there's several ways to do it. The way that I'm going to do it is there are 3 of these Phillip head screws that go around the hub. I'm going to take my grinder and I'm going to grind a slot in them, and then we're going to be able to pull them out with a flathead screwdriver. And there you go. That's all you got to do. Flathead, grinder, makes quick work of it. Ow. Hot? Ow. Yes. Ow. Wes, it's time. So all you need is a giant muscle man and you can get this off. We didn't even use the grinder. That was all actually CGI. He just pulled this off with his hands. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 3/8 drill bit and we're gonna drill through the factory holes. All right, now that we're done with the 3/8, we're gonna jump up to a 9/16. Made it. Aha, there we go. We are going to go ahead and knock out the StopTech braided brake line. So we're gonna go ahead and bust this loose. Factory line is gone for good. All right, so this is the part number for the StopTech braided brake line kit that I'm going for with the front. This isn't the same number as the rear, but this is the same style lines that we're using. And so I ordered this for a 02 through 06 RSX-Type S. You do not need TL Type S lines for this to work. The lines work fine. Make sure that this is lined up as best we can and press it up in here. And then I like to thread this guy in by hand to make sure it's threading correctly. And then you can go ahead and put your 10mm wrench on it and tighten it down. Once you get it close to tight, the bottom will start to spin on you. You can throw that 17mm on there to keep it from spinning so you can finish tightening it down all the way.
You're good.
All right, that's pretty tight. So now all you got to do is reinstall this portion, and the line wraps around the knuckle, around the front. You don't have to route it any other way, just go the factory way. And then you take your 12mm, line it up. You can thread it into your factory location or into your aftermarket coilover setup, whatever you got going on. I'm gonna torque it down with our 12mm and we're good to go. So other than installing this banjo section onto the caliper, you're done installing your braided brake line setup. All right, guys, so now's the time. Now that we got everything prepped and ready to accept all the new parts, the next thing you're gonna need is one of these 5mm spacers. Now this spacer, it's gonna go on the back side of the rotor, so you're gonna pull everything off, and this is gonna go directly on the hub. But this thing isn't gonna fit in its current form. So what we're gonna have to do is we're going to have to trim down the outside, or better, machine it. Thank you, Dalton.
There's that thousandth it was out. Probably should have measured to make sure I knew where we were going, but it's getting there.
It's definitely
You want to get
a little closer.
up to it.
Pretty close.
Figured it's a lot easier to stop now.
We should have brought the rotor. Well, hey, listen. Here's what
It was easier to stop and ask than it was to keep going and then try and put more back.
Well, listen, no, it's not a big deal. Here's what we'll do. I'll take a video of what you're doing now, and then to add material back, we'll just watch that video in reverse.
That's smart. That's smart.
If we need to put some back.
That would work.
I sent a picture to him already. He goes, I used a grinder. And I was like, Dalton, listen, that's looking like money to me. Oh yeah, even better.
I don't know what that is. I can't see it.
2 inches. Can we convert that to millimeters to something I understand? 10 mil? 5 mil. 5 mil.
It's 5, and it's 5 per side.
We took 5 millimeters off of a 5 millimeter spacer.
Look at that.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Maybe, hopefully it'll just drop right in there.
I'm expecting it to.
Word.
You don't need a mirror finish on the outside edge, but hey, why
But
not get one
hey.
anyway?
So now that we've got our spacer machine down, once again, thank you so much, Dalton. You are a lifesaver. This thing is going to slot on perfectly, and it's going to fit just as we need it to inside of the rotor. And also, this spacer is hub centric. You can grab one of these off Amazon pretty easily. You just got to make sure your bolt pattern is correct for the RSX. And then now that this is here, we can slot the rotor over the top of it, and it'll give us the correct back spacing, so that way it sits in the center of our brand new Brembo. Now, also, on top of all that, if you really wanted to, now would be the best time for you to install any ARP extended studs. So we may be installing this at some point, but if everything fits without having to install these extended studs, that's just going to save us a little bit of time here. So now I'm going to grab the rotor and put it on and get ready to mount up the Brembo. Now, there's a couple of different options for rotors. You can go with S2000 rotors, and you don't have to run the 5 millimeter spacer on the back. The only problem with that is that those rotors are the same. They have the correct back spacing, but they're the same size as the RSX-Type S rotors. They're 300 mil across. The TL Type S rotors that I feel like is the better option, they're 310 mil, or about 12.5 inches across. So they're going to give you full contact on your brake pad, and I feel like that is a better compromise instead of going the S2000 route and just use the rotor that this caliper was designed to be used for. All right, so now we get to put this giant 4-pot Brembo caliper onto the RSX. Let's go. We're good, we're ready to dance. So now that we got the Brembo torqued down, the last thing we have to install, or finish installing rather, is our StopTech braided brake line. So we've got one crush washer here. We're gonna go through here like so. And then we've got our secondary one that goes on the caliper side. And I know this is going to be about as difficult as it can be to see, but it screws right into the back of the Brembo. And then it is a 12 millimeter to torque it down.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. So obviously at this juncture, you need to go through and you need to bleed every single new brake line that we've installed. We're not going to be showing you guys how to do that this time around. There's plenty of videos out there on how to do it. And I'm assuming that if you're taking on a job of this stature, then you already know how to do that. But I will give you this bit of advice. You need to start at the passenger side rear of the car, then the driver rear, and then the passenger front, and then the driver front, and then you're done. So we're going to get that taken care of, and we're going to bolt the wheel on and take this bad boy for a test drive. I like how easy this side went, but it's always easier.
Like, last night wasn't bad, though.
It wasn't, but it's like
I think you just have a really bad memory of last night.
And to catch our fluid, we're going to use our prime hydration bottle. And remember, always use prime hydration for prime braking. Is that what you wanted me to say?
You had already cut the slit in it, and I just bent it off whenever you cut it.
I know, but like I cut the slit in it, but I was able to get to it a lot easier. What's the difference? Oh, we had a shorter battery on, didn't we? We had a shorter battery on.
There you go.
Will you find me a shorter battery?
The hot glue gun.
That was hot.
Oh, it's amazing what he does.
Hang on, I'm not all the way through. See, this is the movie magic shit I've been talking about.